How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Rolling Lines, an Apples and Genos production, the only after dark afternoon live show in the fantasy hockey universe. My name is Josh Hutchinson, and I'll be your host. Today, Blake and I will be discussing must-make moves, power play deployment, zero-G targets, and we'll be taking mailbag questions. So without further ado, let's go. Blake, thank you for joining me, my friend. Coming in clutch today.
Oh, yeah, buddy. Anytime Josh calls, I pick up the phone immediately because, yeah, you know what? You make me better, buddy. And I appreciate it, especially with that beautiful hat. Oh, my God. You got to get over to YouTube and check out this man's hat. It's a beautiful pink hat. What chaos. Great podcast, actually. Really good.
It is a fantastic podcast. Yeah. They just started last year, and I've got the What Chaos shirt as well. They did a big merch drop. Paid an insane amount of duty because they are from the States, and that was not expected. So wasn't super thrilled about that, but
the merch what a fan you are of
the quality podcast. Of the merch is fantastic. So you can't really deny that. So I'm trying to wear it as much as possible because I paid a fucking irresponsible amount of money for it. So
there you go. What's good, buddy?
Yeah, man. So what's going on? How's your week going?
It's going good. Man, Tuesday was awesome. Like, I know there's some people like the Frozen Frenzy, some people don't. I love it. I think it's amazing. Like, it's just an exciting day. You're like, my phone's just going off. Like, I don't know if you have Twitter notifications on, but like, I have so many Twitter notifications. So it's just like, zzz, 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 and every potential tweet is like, yes, my guy got a goal. This is incredible. And I actually had a good day too. Like, all my big guns kind of popped off and put me in some good spots there. So yeah, I'm doing okay to start, but my season hasn't started awesome. Like, I'm 0-2 in Kikuffle. I took a bad beat in the last one. Like, the guy who beat me had the highest point total. I think I had the second. So it's just, that's the way it goes for me in Kikuffle sometimes. But yeah, 0-2 there. 0-2 in the listener league. That one stings because these guys are just having their way with me. And, because I have all these buy lows, I got Stamkos, I got Hyman, I got just a bunch of guys, J-Rob, guys that are not popping off that probably should be popping off. So that's tough. But yeah, this has been a good week so far. I'm crossing my fingers. I need to get off the schneid. How about you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm in 2 listener leagues. One of them I'm 1-1, and I'm doing okay. That's actually the one that I do have Hyman in, which we'll talk about Hyman a little bit later. But the other one has been real tough. I have Kachuk and Barkov in that one, the 2 of my early picks. It's just been been riddled with injuries, and I just haven't been able to I don't know, to account for it. So I'm gonna probably have to make some moves in that one to try and stay competitive because I'm 0-2 and I'm down in my matchup this week, so it's not looking good. But in terms of the keep 3, doing pretty well in that one for our experts league. Kikuffle, I'm 2-0. I'm winning my matchup this week too, so that feels good. It always feels good when Kikuffle goes well. But the last couple of years, Kikuffle has gone well, and almost everything else hasn't. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I'm trying to kind of level the playing field a little bit.
Yeah, buddy. I would love that. I've had such bad luck in Kikuffle, and it's a league I actually care about. Like, I want to do well in, and I prioritize. And it's just been stinky so far. So, anyways, I don't want to go 0-3. I'm ahead of my matchup there by a big margin. So I'm hoping I can take the dub there.
Blake, let's jump into let's just talk about a few things that have happened in this past week and just some storylines over the league. The Winnipeg Jets, man, they're 6-0, the only undefeated team left in the NHL. Have you watched any Jets hockey? Because I don't know, they've looked fine. I don't think they've looked spectacular. Connor Hellebuck has looked great, but and I don't know, the top six is scoring. Mark Scheifele's got a bunch of goals. Kyle Connors looked good. Nikolai Ehlers really solid, and Mom Spaghetti Cole Perfetti has really been popping the last week or so. I don't know. What do you think about the Jets here, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're overachieving for sure, but
Yeah.
when you got a goaltender the caliber of Hellebuck, like you're going to be in every game, right? And the truth is, like, he's playing pretty damn consistent. You know, we talk about goalies a lot here, 0G, and I subscribe to 0G. Hellebuck is an interesting case because he's put together some consistent seasons here, and you know, just when you think, you know, okay, this is the year the Jets are really gonna, you know, fall down, they aren't going to be able to do it again, he starts popping off, and I think they didn't really perform very well last year. Like guys like Kyle Connor, for instance, really not a great season by his standards last year, and he's starting to pop off this year. Plus, yeah, when you're getting a ton of production from Mom Spaghetti, I mean, geez. And we got Ehlers on the top power play. That's it right there, isn't it, Josh? You put Ehlers on the top power play, you don't lose a game. I think that's what I'm gleaning from this.
That's right. Yeah, that's the only thing you can glean from it. It's everything we've ever wanted, and they are reaping the benefits. I don't know that their power play really is popping that much.
Yeah.
But they have looked really good 5v5, and Ehlers has been popping at least at that level with Cole Perfetti along his side.
Yep.
The only winless team left, because Nashville won last night, is the San Jose Sharks. Not as surprising. Especially with Celebrini out, it's not looking good over there in San Jose. They've gotten stomped a couple times by the Anaheim Ducks. They're making Anaheim look really good, which is hard to do. So, yeah. So I mean, there's not much else to say about that. But in terms of the scoring leaders over the last week, Cale Makar, 9 points in 4 games. He has looked stellar. And right alongside him, McKinnon and Rantanen both with 7 points in 4 games. And then Cole Perfetti also with 7 points. They're all tied for second in the league over the last week in scoring. And then there's a bunch of names that have 6 points over the last week. Some of them are the usual suspects. Some of them are not. So I wanted to go through some of these. Nikita Kucherov, Tage Thompson, Artemi Panarin, Nikolai Ehlers, Timo Meier. Those guys are the guys that you expect to have 6 points in 4 games, 3 games. Not a big surprise. Here are some of the surprising ones. JJ Mosier, 2 goals, 4 assists in the last 3 games. Outstanding. A lot of Tampa Bay Lightning, because they have been scoring a lot, except against the Leafs. But they have been scoring a lot. They had 8 goals last night. Anthony Cirelli has 6 points. Brandon Hagel had a nice natty hattie yesterday, which was pretty cool. So I thought of you right away. I knew Blake was probably pretty stoked about the natty hattie for Brandon Hagel. And then we got Michael Granlund, Nate Streamer Boy, and Neil Pionk from the Jets. Any of those names popping out at you? Any of those guys you're wanting to pick up, Blake? Or is this all just kind of a flash in the pan for all of these fellas?
Yeah, funny stuff. I mean, in some of my deeper leagues, I picked up JJ Moser. I actually had him for this performance here the other night, which was unexpected. I sometimes pick up guys, especially in Cacupful, just guys that can chip away. I'm going to get games from them and maybe like 2 to 3 fantasy points a game, you know, based on their blocks and shots, even with no goals. So that was sort of my thinking with Moser. And then the guy popped the hell off. Damn. So, I mean, we can't expect this with Moser. There's no question there. But, I mean, he could be the number 2 guy there, right? They don't have a lot of options in Tampa Bay. So I like the potential deployment and opportunity for Moser there. If Hedman goes down, I mean, are they really going to throw Darren Radish out there? I maybe, but I like Moser's floor. I think Moser has a decent floor. Could be a 35 to 40 point defenseman this year with maybe a touch more ceiling there. So I like that. Granny, I think, is a really good piece. Like, yeah, you talked about San Jose, you know, being real stinky, and they are. But the goals they are scoring are all from like the same players. And it's Mikael Granlund. It's William Eklund. These guys are doing stuff out there. It's really good. Nate tweeted today about those 2 players. And I get it. Like Granlund he's getting a crap ton of minutes. This guy is like, you know, 22 minutes a night. It's insane. And he's doing something with it. He's actually shooting a little bit more than he normally does. So I like Granlund a lot. I think that's a player that should probably be on a roster at this point. Cirelli, Moser, Pionk, no. I mean, those guys are streamers. If you had them, congratulations to you. And Brandon the Bagel Hagel. Buddy, I'm so glad. When you start to see in our Discord, guys are like, do I drop Hagel? What do I do with Hagel? You're like, you hold him. Because he's Hagel. He's awesome. Remember I talked about the zone entries, Josh? Oh, yeah,
yes.
buddy.
Yes.
Corey Schneider, I don't know. That was a player I was interested in this year just because of how he shows out in the micro stats. But great game for him. That's not something we can expect, but it's nice they do have a little bit of secondary scoring there in Tampa. So yeah, but give me Granny, give me Moser for the week, and let's see what's going on.
Yeah, I don't think you allow us to forget about the zone entries, Blake.
You bet your sweet bippy, buddy.
You continually let us know. I should stop shooting from the hip because I just looked up power play percentages. The Jets are first in the league. They have a 44.4% conversion rate, so they've actually been killing it on the power play.
Happens to me every time when I'm like, yeah, I think I know that. I'll say that, and I'm like,
no,
it's not right. Damn it!
No,
all right,
completely wrong.
Yep.
Yeah. And then this is a fun little segment that I thought that I would keep going. Philip Gustafson has more goals than Brad Marchand,
oh god,
Carter Verhaeghe, Matthew Tkachuk, Elias Pettersson, PLD, another one of your boys, Owen Tippett, and Zach Hyman. It's ugly for these guys so far. But yeah, I thought I'd keep this going. This is a fun little segment here. We'll see if Gustafson scores another.
Yeah.
Or if any of these guys get off the schneid next week.
Some silky mitts on Gus there. I love that. And I love Fleury being like, yeah, go for it. Shoot the puck. Like Fleury is such a beauty. I love Gus this year, man. He's really come to play. He's on one right now.
Yeah, he's been a top goalie in the league, and they're playing the shit out of him, like even more than I expected. So that's really exciting. They had that they talked about how they're keeping Wallstead up with the team for the whole year, and I'm like, are we really doing this 3 goalie carousel here? I have all these shares in Gustafson, and then he's played so well that they've just been riding with him. Yeah, the teams look good too. Minnesota's look great. I'm gonna take some questions from the chat here. Solar Facade says, hey, fellas, appreciate your thoughts on Mikhail Sergachev. So, yeah, Sergachev, he's got 1 assist in the last 5 games, 4 assists overall in 7 games this year. Average time on ice right now over the last 5 games is over 27 minutes of time on ice. On-ice shooting percentage at 5v5, 9.7%. IPP 17%. So, you know what? This guy is going to... This guy's going to bounce back. It's fine. He's getting all the deployment. Yeah, he's getting played on that top power play. Utah has been okay. They're right middle of the pack on the power play, but I remember looking at the underlying numbers and they don't really generate as much. They're kind of overachieving there, so I don't know if that's part of it. But yeah, Sergachev I think will be fine. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Sergachev, Blake?
Yep, I echo all that. I wasn't that high on Sergachev going into the year here. I think he still wears this tag of the player that got, 30 power play points basically with Tampa Bay, but he's just not that player to me. Like, this is a guy that I think can get 50 to 55 points potentially this year. And with Dursey out, I'm not even sure if it's a net positive for Sergachev, because I think Dursey was taking a lot of tough minutes as well. I mean, they were both up together. They were a pairing, but now the load is going to be much heavier for Sergachev, and we'll see how he handles it. I also think Utah overachieved so far this season. We'll talk about Genther in a little bit here, but that's a guy that, popped off, and maybe it was fool's gold, right? We love Genther, but do we love him for what we were expecting after the first, couple games there? Probably not, right? So I think things are going to settle, and, Sergachev's probably going to end up being like a 45 to 55 point defenseman.
So a couple Sergachev questions, very similar. Jason asked the same thing. Just want to shout out Jason here. Christian Talk says, someone dropped Wool in my league with Stolarz popping off. Worth a pickup? I mean, sure. Yeah, if you can stash him on your IR plus, that's fine. Berube said that he could be back, yesterday. But they ended up starting Dennis Hildeby, and that didn't look overly great. So we'll see. You could see Wool by the end of the week. They do have a couple more games. I imagine it's possible for him to get one of these starts, but the whole injury thing with him has been so mysterious. It's kind of hard to know. But yeah, if you can stash him on your IR plus, he's definitely worth an ad for sure. I think once he's healthy, they're going to want to play him. So and they're going to probably want to rest Stolarz a little bit because he's been so good, but he's had injury troubles in the past as well. So you're probably going to want to share the load a little bit there. I don't know, Blake, are you picking up Wool if he's there?
Probably not. But I mean, what do you think when Wall is fully healthy and you got Stolars, who has been playing really well? Who's taking the net? Are they going to tandem it? Are they going to? Do you think they're leaning one way or the other based on even just what Stolars has been able to do, or is it kind of the history with Wall and the acumen that they might lean into?
I think the investment in Wall probably warrants them playing him a little bit, but if he struggles right out of the gate, I think they'll have no issue sticking with Stolars. Like Stolars has been outstanding. Like he's looked so good. There have been no weaknesses. There have been no moments where you're like, uh-oh. Like he has been so
it must feel
steady.
Really good, man, for a Leafs fan.
Yeah, it certainly does.
You.
I mean,
like that save the other night was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Nuts,
yeah, pulling it right off the goal line. That was crazy. But yeah, no, I think I think Stolarz probably has stolen the 1A spot. But that being said, like the way that they were talking about Woll going into the season, it really seems like they're committed to him being a part of this team going forward. So, and really, I mean, it's just been injury that's been the issue. Whenever he's played, he's been great. So, I'm not concerned about him like not playing at all. But I do think that Stolarz has probably proven to be the guy that they trust right now, at the very least. So he's probably the 1A, but Woll I think is going to get some time. So him coming back will probably hurt your Stolarz shares, but not as much as maybe you're thinking. Ian says, "Hey fellas, who would you keep on your roster out of these pure C's in an FW Bangers league? Casey Middlestat, Sean Monahan, or Josh Norris?" Absolutely, you're keeping Josh Norris. I don't think it's even close.
I think it's interesting. It's I would keep Norris too, so I agree with you there. And one thing, like I don't know if you're any any face-off leagues there, Josh, but I'm in one, and it's I didn't put it into my strategy very well. Like I'm basically punting at this point. I'm like, well, I'm getting smoked on face-off wins, so it's not something that I'm real like up on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think of these guys, I'm not even sure who the best face-off player is, but I think there's a conversation. Like Middlestat's still doing the thing. He's on power play 1 in Colorado. He's the 2C there. Monahan is getting a ton of minutes, and he's got power play 1 there as well in Columbus, who are a bit surprising this year. I really feel like Columbus is playing well, playing motivated, clearly, right? Due to all this offseason stuff and all the injuries as well. Just the most unlucky franchise in the league by far. I've never even seen anything like this. So, yeah, but I think Norris, I love where he's at right now. I mean, power play 1, that's a team that gets a ton of power plays, Ottawa, and they're cooking, right? They're, Winnipeg's number 1, Ottawa's number 2. And we got Norris on there. He's doing stuff, right? This guy, the metrics don't look good, but he's a very efficient player. And I think, he hits too. So I think there's lots of value with Josh Norris.
Yeah, I like Norris a lot. Armin Safari says, Samsonov or Annunen in a Cats league. My other goalie is Skinner. Available free agents are Hofer, Lyon, Jari, Ned. I mean, I'd probably go with, oh man, that's tough. It's hard to know what to think about Annunen, because they were so set on starting Georgiev, and now all of a sudden Annunen gets 2 starts, but they're kind of being quiet about it. It's like, are they giving Georgiev a break, or are they shifting their trust to Annunen? I mean, he has looked good in the 2 starts, so if it was me, I'd probably ride with the hot hand, but I don't, especially through this time where they're so thin up front. I don't know, man. What are your thoughts here? Samsonov has had a couple starts in a row as well.
Yeah, no, I'm not interested in Samsonov at all, but I am interested in Annunen, because it's funny you said hot hand, because that actually came out today. Jared Bednar, they asked him, like, is this guy going to get more starts, right? And they said he's going to start on Thursday, which is Colorado's next game. So he's going to get another one, and they're going to ride the hot hand. This is Jared Bednar's words. So I think that, like, the stuff he was saying about Georgiev, it was probably like they're trying to say the right thing. You can't just come out and say, like, no, we're not going to play our number 1 goalie. Like, I think there was a mental aspect to that. Like, the guy was playing like crap, but, he got a vote of confidence from the head coach. He's our guy. He's our number 1 guy. But, you can't just keep throwing a guy in there if, he's a complete sieve, right? You're losing games based on your goaltending. Like, their goaltending's been horrible. So I think Annunen is going to get a little run here. So it might not be like, people talk about dropping Georgiev. That's an interesting conversation. Maybe we can have a little bit later, but I think that Annunen is going to get have some value here over the next couple weeks while Georgie figures things out. So I like Annan in there. I mean, of the other free agents too, like we need to see more from Hofer. We need to see how they're going to deploy him, right? Because Bennington got the last start, lost the game. So do they go back to Hofer here? That would be interesting, right? I'm holding him in one spot. Lyon, yeah, this guy's amazing, but Detroit is just, they're on a wing and a prayer right now. Like they had no business winning that game against the Islanders the other night, but Lyon had another amazing game. So I just don't like goalies that are really reliant on standing on their heads. Right. And that's what Lyon is right now. Yeah. Like what happens when he doesn't? What happens when he has his B game? He gets shelled for 6 goals. You know what I mean? So, and so Lyon, I mean, he's good, but I would easily kick him to the curb. Jerry and Ned, I'm not interested in the Pittsburgh goalies at this point, especially because we still don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm moving off of Pittsburgh for sure in terms of goaltending. And yeah, I like what you said about Lyon. Detroit has been so bad.
Yeah.
Like they've looked so terrible. They had 10 shots last game.
Unreal.
And they won 1-0 just because Lyon stood on his head. So I'm not banking anything on the Detroit Red Wings right now outside of all of my Patrick Kane shares. I have him in more than anyone else in my leagues because I got him for value, but he hasn't been like spectacular either. He did score last night, but Lost One says Cooley's been impressing me on the Rangers. I hope he gets more 5v5 ice time soon. Banger's Butte too. Yeah, I took a look quickly. Will Cooley, a goal and 4 assists in his last 5 games, 6 points in 6 games so far this year. So he's point per game, getting just over 13 minutes time on ice. Shots per 60 rank in the league so far over the last 5 games, 19th, and individual scoring chances for per 60, 22nd. So this guy has been looking very good. He's a guy that I was interested in going into this year, actually. But there's not really the opportunity there in New York. But this is a guy that does get pretty nice numbers under the hood, and he's really taking it to another level so far this year. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Cooley?
Yeah, he's just one of those guys, like a 12 to 15 minute guy that, yeah, he's popping off right now, which is really nice, but he does have a great floor in bangers leagues because of the hits and the PIMs. But yeah, New York has that amazing third line again, like Philip Hedl, Capo Caco. They obviously play well together, and it used to be Lafreniere, but now it's Will Cooley, and he's doing stuff. You know who he reminds me of is, and maybe Nate would take issue with this, but like Ross Colton. When Ross Colton's getting like 12 minutes to 15 minutes, you're like, yeah, this guy, there's something there. Like imagine Will Cooley on the top power play with the Rangers. Like, okay, now we're interested. Now we're looking at, maybe a 30-30 guy. I don't even know. But yeah, that's not in the cards. So Will Cooley's just he's a streamer level for now. Maybe a hold in a bangers league.
Yeah, for sure. The chat is absolutely popping right now, but I do think we need to continue with our regular scheduled content, but we'll get back to it at some point. So we'll go to shift change, and we're going to talk about our ad and our drop of the week. So my ad of the week right now, at least for the rest of this week, is Morgan Frost. He is 7% rostered in Yahoo leagues. He has 3 games with 2 off nights left this week, which is the best schedule that you can get. Philly and New Jersey, the only 2 teams that have that. New Jersey doesn't have a ton of they're pretty top heavy. They don't have a ton of great options. You got your Stefan Nasons, which I mean, he definitely has some value and he's been really good, but I'm going to go with Morgan Frost. Did get demoted at 5v5 yesterday and played under 14 minutes for the first time this year, but he has been getting the 18 to 20 minute treatment so far. Outside of that, was playing when he got demoted, he played with Scott Lawton and Travis Konechny at 5v5. So that's still not a bad situation. You're moving off of Michkov and Tippett, but still getting Konechny exposure. And he is still on power play 1. They've stuck with the same unit all years so far, which has been great. And they have been good. They've been scoring. They're like Philly is I mean, they're 16th in the league, but they're scoring at 20%,
not dead last.
Which is and hey man, that's right on track for your hot take to come to fruition. So as long as they hold steady there, right in the middle of the pack, you're sitting pretty. Matvei Michkov is having an effect on that team. But yeah, back to Morgan Frost. Underlying numbers aren't amazing. He's never really been a big underlying numbers guy, but he is being prioritized here. So In terms of the guys that are available on Philly, that's a guy that I would seriously consider picking up at least for the rest of the week. What are your thoughts on Frost here, buddy?
Well, first off, anytime you talk about Morgan Frost, you got to use his nickname, the Tinkly Winkly Man. Yeah. Because Morgan Frost, really cool name, but doesn't that sound just like, a villain's like actual name in reality, before he turns into the Tinkly Winkly Man? Like if this is Morgan Frost, like, but he's kind of like Mr. Freeze, only like not as powerful. Like maybe he just has like, he's just really cold all the time and he makes people like uncomfortably cold. And I don't know where I'm going with that. Anyways, yeah, Morgan Frost is a fine pick. He's demoted. He's still in the top 6. Good to go. No problem. To me, my ad for this segment here is going to be Josh Norris. We talked about him a little bit, but he is 22% rostered there. Pretty damn nice. He's got 2 games left, right? So I think, Frost had 3, but one of them is on the Saturday, and maybe you aren't, he's probably not making your lineup there. So I think we're just looking at those off nights there, which Frost has 2 and Josh Norris has 2 as well. So to me, what we've seen with Norris so far, goal scoring, unsustainable, right? He's cooking for 37.5%. His shooting percentage, that's not real. But one thing that is real is Josh Norris is an efficient player, right? And he's done that throughout his injury-filled career. So, I think we talked about him a little bit earlier, but he's got great opportunity and deployment. We can't ignore that, right? This guy's getting great minutes with good players, especially at the low price of 22%. Damn. Get this man on your team and do it now. All right. So I like me some Josh Norris for the remainder of the week there.
Yeah, man, it's criminal how available Josh Norris is right
What are we
now.
doing?
I did pick him up in one of my leagues in the fantasy puck league. Sat him last night and probably would have been better off not sitting him, but he does have the 2 off nights, so he's definitely getting in my lineup the rest of the week. But that's a guy that I would probably consider holding in that league, depending on how things look in the coming weeks. Morgan Frost, it's funny that you call him the Tinkly Winkly Man, because I picture his dad was actually the in-house PA announcer for the Toronto Maple Leafs for many years, Andy Frost, and was known for his like very deep, very like heavy voice. So when I think about you talking about the Tinkly Winkly Man, I hear like the Tinkly Winkly Man.
No,
like,
you know what?
Just like a guy like this weird I don't know, dichotomy of like this guy with this really deep voice being called the Tinkly Winkly Man.
Well, maybe he's going the other way with it. Maybe he's rebelling against his father. His father had such a deep voice, and that's this man's villain origin story. He was known for his deep voice, so he's the Tinkly Winkly Man. I haven't seen a Morgan Frost interview, so I don't know, kind of the tone of his voice, but I'm assuming it's insanely high, like a man just huffing helium. That's my thought on the Tinkly Winkly Man. He's like one of those ice like clowns or something. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. Morgan Frost, big listener to the show. We're just joking around, Morgan. All right. It's all in good fun.
He certainly looks like he has a high voice. He's one of those guys that just has a baby face and looks like he probably will for the rest of his life. My drop is Jake DeBrusque. So this is maybe a little bit spicy here. And Blake, I'd love to hear your take on this, but he's 52% rostered. Has only 1 game left this week. It's on Saturday. Probably not getting into your lineup if he's a fringe roster player. He has really bad underlying stats so far. I'm just going to pull them up here, but he's been pulled off of the top power play in favor of Connor Garland, who has been really good so far this year. But despite his 4 assists in 6 games, over the last 5 games, he's dropped under 60 in minutes time on ice. Shots per 60 rank in the last 5 games, 258th. And his individual scoring chances for per 60 rank is 146th. Across the whole season, it's actually worse than that. In the first couple games, it really was not looking good in terms of his underlying stats. So not great. He did play alongside Brock Besser and JT Miller last night, which is positive. He was down to the 3rd line. But yeah, I'm not liking the opportunity here for Jake DeBrusque anymore. And that was a big part of why I was banking on him to have a good season, was that I thought that he would get a ton of opportunity. And now that the power play opportunity's gone, maybe it comes back. But for now, especially with their schedule, I think that's a guy that I'm probably cutting bait with right now. I don't know, man. What have you seen from Jake DeBrusque in these Canucks games?
Yeah, I mean, it's been uninspiring, that's for sure. It's just one of those things too where, the coach clearly isn't really too jazzed on his style of play, right? And there was that one game where he played with Petey. It was him and Petey and Sprong, I think, or something like that, and they just got caved in. Like, it was a horrible night for all three guys. The Corsi forward percentage was just nuts. They were not generating anything, and they were just, the ice was tilted against them. And yeah, like, I think, I don't know what I've seen so far with Jake DeBrus. I feel like it's going to take a little bit for him to kind of ensconce himself into this team, if I can use that word. Nice. Yeah, there you go. It's like the Seinfeld episode when George ensconced himself in velvet. Did you ever see that?
Oh, yes.
Okay, sweet. All right. I know you're a young man, but at least you know some Seinfeld. Nate, he doesn't know what the hell's going on. All right. I don't know what he's watching on the regular, but it's certainly not in line with what I watch anyways.
Nate was a big Bang Theory fan from what I remember.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if he. I can remember a time when Big Bang Theory came out first. I think Nate showed me Big Bang Theory, which is
that
crazy.
The one with the blonde lady and the tall, skinny, nerdy guy?
And the the nerds.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah. Never saw it, but she's nice to look at, I'll tell you. And actually, I don't mind the guy from Roseanne either. He's pretty good. Anyways, we're digressing here. Shout out to Big Bang Theory. And shout out to Jake DeBrusque. All right. I think that, this is one of those things. I think he's absolutely a drop right now. No question. But I think he could be a hold later on in the season, right? After things start to get better. They've only been 6 games in. The Canucks have had, 3 good games and 3 bad games. They really have. So they're still trying to figure it out with some of the new people. And Tocchet has been making some changes here, some tweaks. So I think DeBrusque will be back. He'll probably see time on that top power play again during the season. But for now, especially like you said, with the schedule, they only have 4 games between now and the end of next week. So that's not good enough. That's not going to cut it for Jake DeBrusque if he's getting 13 minutes a night. So I think you can drop him for sure. I don't think people are rushing to the wire to pick up Jake DeBrusque, but I would say this is a player you got to keep your eye on because he has had good metrics in the past. He hasn't been able to do that here. But, I think once his confidence gets going, it looked like it was going to go too. The first game, like, remember, did you see that highlight of his little dance after he assisted JT Miller or something like that? Like, he was feeling it, right? He was out there skating well, and that game was just a train wreck. First game of the year, and it just hasn't gone well since then. So definitely keep an eye on DeBrusque, but I'm fine with the drop.
All right, man. Who are you dropping?
I'm dropping him like it's lukewarm. His name is Jamie Benn. All right. This man stinks. Just kidding. No, he doesn't stink. He's fine. He has a beautiful head of hair as well. But we got to get a new haircut on this guy. I don't know if the slicked back and just a big goatee, I don't know if that's really, that's how we roll here in 2024, the year of our Lord. What are we doing?
Yeah, he's clearly an elder statesman of the league that's stuck in his look from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
He really hasn't moved off of it, has he?
Well, and I guess, he's big and mean, so who's telling him? Nobody, right? You're like, fine, JB, you carry on with that haircut, that's fine. But yeah, Jamie Benn is 59% rostered, and I'm not saying that you have to drop Jamie Benn, right? And I don't think you're saying you have to drop Jake DeBrusque, right? It's just like a player I think you could drop pretty comfortably, and that's where I'm at with Jamie Benn. He's still on the quote unquote top power play in Dallas, but they were doing some weird stuff there the other night where, Matt Duchene, it was Duchene. Duchene is getting more power play time than Jamie Benn, right? So is Mason Marchment in the last game. So they're doing some weird stuff in there. I think Dallas is so good and so deep in with their forwards there. Like, it's going to stink for fantasy. I think, like, Jamie Benn, his one claim to fame for fantasy is that he's on power play 1, right? And he had that amazing year there, when Dallas popped off. But I think it's all downhill from here for Jamie Benn. Like, this could be it for him. This might be the year where he truly falls off of that career resurgence that he had a couple of years ago. Metrics are terrible with Jamie Benn. He's not generating anything. 2 points in 7 games stinks. All right. Not to mention over the rest of the week and next, just like the Canucks, he only has 4 games, but Dallas actually has a worse schedule. They have 4 in the next week and a half, but I think they only have 1 off night. So they have 2 games this week, and then they only have 2 games next week, which are like a Friday, Saturday back-to-back. So if you hold on Jamie Benn, you're holding all through the week with no games played, and then you're only getting him on the Friday, and then he's probably not even playing the Saturday. So it just seems like a good time to drop Jamie Benn. To me, I don't think people are rushing to the wire to get him. And it's just not worth it to hold him, right, with what they're doing in Dallas. So, Jamie Benn, thank you for your service. How can you talk poorly of the Sedins? You shouldn't do it, and that's what's happening now, right? Karma is finally biting this man in the butt.
Yeah, he's an interesting character. He doesn't have the exposure to Wyatt Johnston 5v5, which I think is a big factor. I think he probably was pulled along by Johnston a little bit more than maybe we were thinking. And then their power play there, first of all, it's been bad. It's the 30th ranked power play in the league so far.
Yeah.
And they're splitting the time almost exactly evenly just because they have so much offensive depth. So the power play one isn't even really like a true power play one, even though it is loaded up. Like it's loaded up like it is a true power play one, but it's not being deployed that way. So a little bit concerning there for Dallas in general. But yeah, JB Ben I think is a very reasonable drop right now. He's a guy that I ran and picked up in the in our Keep 3 Experts League, because I was like, wow, this guy's on waivers? That's crazy. And I picked him up, and he's done absolutely nothing. So
it's like I saw him in Kikuffle, too. Someone dropped him in Kikuffle, and I was like, I think I got him, must add him. And then I just dug in real quick. I was like, no, I don't. Why would I add this man? No, this is not good.
Yeah, it hasn't been good for Ben for sure. All right, let's go to the power play planner. So we're gonna take a look at a few power plays around the league and a few changes that have been made. And just some interesting situations. So the Buffalo Sabres, they had been having the split power plays for a little while. They've kind of gone to a true power play one again. It's not the most ideal situation, but it is slightly better than it was. We've got Tage Thompson, Dylan Cousins, Rasmus Dahlin, JJ Peterka, Jason Zucker. Don't love the Jason Zucker pick there. Alex Tuck getting completely disrespected, still producing despite not playing on power play one. But yeah, that's concerning. Buffalo Sabres, the only team that has not scored a power play goal yet this year, so that's not great. And Lindy, maybe just try putting Alex Tuck out there. That would at least just try it.
Just help us out. What are you doing? I mean, the good thing with Tuck is like like you said, he doesn't really need power play one to be effective. This guy is a player that Lindy Ruff really relies on. I mean, Granato relied on him as well. This is a guy that is very valuable at even strength. He kills penalties. He's a great player. So to me, it's just like Zucker. What the hell is Zucker doing out there? Like, it's like Nick Paul in the power play in Tampa. Like, okay, I get the idea. Like, go stand in front of the net, get your body in front of the goal. It's like, yeah, we could do better. We could do better. So I hope they make the change there. But I do think that it's not as bad in Buffalo, the power play, as what the numbers say, right? Like 0 goals, that's going to change. That's not sustainable. They're not going to be the worst power play in the league. I really don't believe that. I think Thompson looks good. I think Cousins has been snake bit. This is a guy that's, the metrics are looking really good for Dylan Cousins, but the points aren't there. And then Rasmus Dahlin too. I mean, he's been ice cold to start the year, maybe dealing with, the lingering effects of an injury, but he had a really nice game the other night there. He was chucking a lot of pucks, got some scoring chances, got some shots on the board. I feel good about that player. Dahlin's a big time buy low to me. So I'm interested there. And then Peterka. Yeah, we love Peterka. He's going to be fine. So yeah, I think Jay-Z, let's get him off the power play there and get Tuck back out there. What are we doing?
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 guys on that roster that I'd put on power play one before Jason Zucker. So I don't know what the hell they see in him there. Chicago's got one of the best power plays in the league so far, which is what we all expected. They are 7th with 6 power play goals, a 27.3% power play percentage. I remember last year we were doing a mock draft, and you and I were doing this, and I said something about how I didn't think the Chicago power play was going to be as bad as people think, and someone in the comments just lit me up, like just was like, "You are so stupid. This power play is going to be garbage," and it was, but I do feel a little vindicated because it's not really that much different. You add what? Teuvo Teravainen, and that's it. They're one of the best power plays in the league right now. So I don't know. Anyways, I thought I'd bring that up. Blake came to my defense in the comments. I remember he's just like, "Hey, This guy knows what he's talking about.
That was funny to me. I mean, a shout out to that YouTube commenter as well. We're not, calling you a dingus or anything like that. But yeah, that was just a silly comment. You didn't even say like he was like, oh yeah, they're going to be the best power play in the league. It's like he didn't say that.
I didn't say that.
They're going to be better than they were, and like that's not a hot take. So yeah, I was thinking about that too. Though I was going to say it if you didn't. Like, who's laughing now?
That's right.
Number
right.
one in the league or top echelon.
This is my Ross Colton moment.
Holy
this is my
buddy.
Ross Colton. Is the Chicago power play. Yeah, so anyways, they got Teravainen, Foligno, Connor Bedard, Tyler Bertuzzi, Seth Jones on that top power play. Bertuzzi 13% rostered, Foligno 8%. Those are guys that I would consider taking a look at because they've kind of they've been reaping the benefits of playing on that top power play. So other than that, Teravainen I think is over 50% rostered. He's getting all the Bedard exposure, so I think if people are taking notice of that, and then obviously Bedard and Seth Jones are Seth Jones has been so good this year, at least offensively. I've been really stoked on Seth Jones. I don't know, what do you think, man?
Oh yeah, it's been great, and where we got him for picks, like it's happening the way that we hoped, right? I did see Nate tweeted out today too, though, that Alex the Pickle Vlasic, he took a couple shifts on power play one there in the last game, so just something to keep an eye on in Chicago. Like, please don't take Seth Jones off the power play, right? Because Nate was saying this, and I agree. It's like, it's not like Vlasic is all of a sudden going to be this great asset, but it's going to kill our Seth Jones stocks. We don't need that. So, I just something to keep an eye on. It's, we're not doing anything with that information, but just keep an eye on that. And, it might cap some of Seth Jones' ceiling if they actually decide to do that. Would they? Could they? I hope not.
All right, let's go to Columbus. We did talk a little bit about Columbus before, but they've looked really solid as well. Their top power play right now is Cole Sillinger, Sean Monahan, Kirill Marchenko, who got up there now that Ken Johnson is on. I don't know if he's on the IR, but he's out for sure. Igor Chinnikov, Zach Werenski, and that unit's been pretty good as well. Like, that's another one where they're surprisingly pretty solid. Not as good as I thought. They have 3 power play goals, but they're anyways, at 5v5 these guys have been kind of killing it. And I like that unit. It's loaded up. That's kind of what we wanted from Columbus. They're staying consistent. Dean Evison is not itchy. He's sticking. He's trying to get some chemistry for this team. And I mean, it's tough. They've had people dropping like flies like this season. It's not been great, but they're chugging along. And Evison is doing a good job so far. So I don't know, man. Are you interested in any of these guys on the Columbus top power play here?
Yeah, absolutely. Marchenko, Monahan, Chinnikov, all guys I'm very interested in. Sillinger is a weird one. Obviously, he's got the coach's confidence there because he's getting some decent deployment. But where's Adam Fantilli? Why? Like, we have so many injuries and we still can't get Fantilli on the top power play. That is a bit frustrating, right? Because we called Fantilli for a really nice breakout this year, and I just don't think it can happen unless he has some consistent power play one time. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I mean, keep an eye on Sillinger. I'm just looking him up here. Like, 19 minutes a night. That's not bad. The metrics are okay. He's got 4 points in 6 games, but Fantilli, he's still there. Just get him on the thing. I don't know. We don't know the inner workings of these, these dressing rooms and how they're kind of sorting out the power plays, but I'd love to see Fantilli on there instead of Sillinger.
Yeah. All right. We'll try and burn through the rest of these here. So Detroit, we've got DeBrincat back up on the top power play. JT Compher, get him the fuck out of here. Eric Gustafson quarterbacking it as well. He's been back in the lineup. So they've got that top unit loaded up. Haven't really been getting a ton of opportunity. Again, like we said, they had 10 shots last game. So hopefully they get a little bit more power play time and draw some more penalties. Edmonton, this is the one we wanted to talk about most here because it's the most interesting situation. At practice today, they'd split the power plays. They had Arvidsson, Skinner, McDavid, Draisaitl, and then a rotation of Matthias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard on one unit. And then they had Hyman, RNH, Adam Henrique, Darnell Nurse, and then Bouchard and Ekholm rotating in that last spot there. What do we think about this, Blake? It's wild. I'm concerned about my Zach Hyman shares right now.
Yeah, I mean, that was one thing that we talked about Hyman a lot. We're like, yeah, well, he's still power play one. He's still doing the thing, big time minutes, like over 20 minutes, shots, chucking pucks, all that stuff is good for Hyman. But now, if you're taking him off power play one, like even like I just don't see a situation where they're going to split power play in Edmonton. When you have McDavid and Draisaitl, you get them out for 75% of that power play. That's irresponsible to not do that. Like that's that makes no sense. So that means Hyman and RNH and potentially Bouchard are going to get minimized to some degree on the power play. Damn. I really think this is a little bit of a Hail Mary just because Edmonton, they just can't put it together. That was a crushing loss for them the other night there against Carolina because they played well. They had, Freddie Anderson played out of his mind in overtime. And it's been a tough luck start to the season for Edmonton, just like last year. But I think they're playing a little better than they were last year. Like their expected goals are decent, but their puck luck is the worst in the league. And, like some of their save percentage terrible as well. Like it's just not going well for the Oilers right now. So they got to do something. And this is kind of the Hail Mary that they're doing. I would be surprised if this lasts more than half a game. You know what I mean? Like unless like out of nowhere, these guys just pop off for like, 2 goals in quick succession on 2 power plays. And you're like, okay, maybe we have something here. But fun fact, I've got Ekholm in, so many different leagues. So if they're going to give him power play 1 with McDavid, buddy, I'm loving life. I mean, because I love Ekholm already as just kind of a supplementary guy on your squad. But if like his ceiling definitely rises, this is a guy that can do stuff for fantasy. So keep an eye on it. Obviously, Skinner and Arvidsson to the moon if that lasts. Like I called, for Arvidsson to be more valuable than Skinner this year, and that hasn't really panned out. Skinner has still been shooting the lights out with really minimal ice time. So if they're going to put him on power play 1, I think, Skinner could get the biz with McDavid and Dry there. And I like Arvidsson as a power play performer as well. So it makes sense. It's just shocking. That's all.
Yeah, it's a little. Well, I mean, their power play's been bad. They're 28th in the league. They only have 2 power play goals, which is crazy. But you'd think like they've had the same unit essentially for 2 straight years and they've been killing it. Like you'd think that you maybe just stick with it and hopefully you figure it out. But
maybe teams know how to game plan for it better now.
Maybe, maybe they do.
They got to do something.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I definitely feel good about any Ekholm, Arvidsson, Skinner shares. Jeff Skinner's been really good.
Yeah,
I really like the look of him. He's been one of the best players on that team so far this year. So, and hopefully Arvidsson gets sparked by getting some McDavid Draisaitl exposure here. Speaking of split power plays, the New York Islanders, they lost Anthony Duclair and they just blew up their power plays. Absolutely threw a bomb in there. Patrick Waugh, not happy, split up Horvat and Barzal. So they've got one unit that's Horvat, JGP, Anders Lee, Palmieri, and Noah Dobson, which was their top unit. And then Matt Barzal, Maxim Siplikov, Brock Nelson, Simon Holmstrom, and Mike Riley. Ugh. What is going on there? I don't like that at all. Personally, what I'd probably do is go Barzal, Horvat, Nelson, Palmieri, Dobson. But Patrick Waugh disagrees. I don't know, man. I'm a little concerned. I mean, I invested in Barzal. I know I gave you a hard time in the offseason about Matt Barzal and your all 3 zone stuff. And once I did my projection on him, I'm like, oh, actually, this came out a lot higher than I thought, and I ended up picking him up in a couple spots, but it hasn't been good so far.
Yeah,
and this makes it look a lot worse.
Yeah, it's not great for Barzal, but again, this is just a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, right? They need to get something going. This is one of those things where they try it for a game or maybe even half a game, then they go back to Old Faithful, right? There's no way they can do this. Like Barzal is by far their best player. He generates all the offense on the team. Like everything runs through him on this team. So you're going to throw him on power play 2. Like I think maybe the thought there is not that Barzal's playing bad and we're going to put him to power play 2. It's like, let's get our best offensive play driver on the second power play to try and get some of these guys cooking, but splitting him and Horvat up, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, right? I think they have good chemistry. So yeah, we'll see. Patrick Waugh, he's he's a bit of an odd duck there. He's playing the guys that I want, right? He's playing Barzal for 20 minutes, so that's nice. Horvat's getting big ice time, but he's doing some weird stuff. Like I remember at the end of last year, he was putting Mike Riley over Noah Dobson on the power play. He played, Semyon Varlamov over Sorokin towards the end of the season. It's like, what are you doing? Is he just flexing, right? Like, it's weird stuff, but he's a head coach and I'm some guy in my basement, so I don't know what's going on. But yeah, Barzal, he's going to be fine. I bet this doesn't last for more than a game.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll kind of. I'll give you three names here just to finish off the power play planner here. We've got Hagel up on power play 1, replacing Darren Radish. We've got Connor Garland on power play 1, replacing Jake DeBrusque in Vancouver, and then Pavel Dorofiev up for Victor Olofsson with him being out. How do you rank these three guys here, Blake?
Ooh, that's a good question. You got to go Hagel, Garland, Dorofiev to me. And Hagel, I'm putting Hagel to top, not because he's on and off power play 1, so I'm not super confident that he stays there, but he doesn't need it. His line is like, he's the better even strength player in terms of conversion, just in terms of deployment. Hagel is going to bring more to the table there. And the fact that he's on power play 1, that's icing, right? But Garland, this guy is the Canucks' best player on a nightly basis. It's insane. It's just, he's not a great finisher, right? But he makes things happen. Like his 5-on-5, 5v5 Corsi 4 percentage when he's out there, this guy crushes there. He's a dog on the puck. He's amazing in puck battles in the corner. He gets the puck to these guys. Great skater. He's just small. If this guy was like 6 foot tall, he'd be like in the upper echelon of the league. He's that good. It's just, he's doing a lot with very little. So I like Connor Garland a lot, and power play 1, he's totally earned that. Dorofiev, really nice piece there. Vegas is, to me, overachieving, but who the hell cares? Like, strike while the iron's hot. Dorofiev is getting a good look there. Mark Stone, what is Mark Stone doing this year? Just making me look like an absolute ding dong. And that's fine. It's like I read this tweet on Mark Stone like 2 years ago. It was like, yeah, it sounds like Mark Stone's going to be in and out of the lineup for the rest of his career with this chronic back injury. I'm like, okay, that's enough. I don't need Mark Stone in my life. Screw that. He doesn't shoot. He doesn't generate chances. Well, what the hell is this? Like, he's just going to plow through 82 games this year and crush it for like 90 points. Like, is that what's happening now?
Yeah, I don't know. It's still early, right? Last year he was pretty solid too, not to this level, but then ruptured his spleen, so maybe he gets some sort of ulcer in his intestines or something. And
you got to air quote that. Ruptured his spleen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, he probably did.
It's interesting the amount of catastrophic injuries that seem to be he's a magnet for these very weird and strange injuries. It seems a little fishy to me.
Yeah, very consistent healing though, isn't he?
Yeah, so Vegas was a team that I've been targeting since the beginning of the year, just because they lost so much wing depth, that there was going to be opportunity for at least 1 to 2 wingers high in the lineup. So Victor Olofsson is a guy that I was looking at before the season. Dorofiev's another. Alexander Holtz. These young guys that haven't really gotten a ton of opportunity, that are getting opportunity. Dorofiev's getting it right now. He has 4 points in his last 5 games. Yeah. Time on ice, not great. Just over 15 minutes. Shots per 60 rank over the last 5 games, 38th in the league. So he's actually been doing some stuff. He's looked pretty solid with Tomas Hertl. They've got something cooking there on the second line and on the power play. So that's a guy that I'm a little more interested in than I thought, to be honest. Now looking at the numbers. So
how are you ranking?
Definitely. I probably am still ranking them the same way you did. I don't think it's a fair comparison, really. Hagel is definitely the best player in a vacuum. Connor Garland's been really good, and I think I like the Vancouver power play more than the Vegas power play. But Dorofiev is a guy that Garland and Dorofiev are closer than you'd think. So but I do like Connor Garland too. He's been really solid, and getting the Pettersson exposure too. I think that's something that's been long overdue.
Pettersson's getting the Garland exposure.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what's happening. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. No, it is kind of that is what it feels like right now. Let's go to from zero to hero. We'll just touch on some zero G targets before we get into the mailbag. We've got the Calgary goalies getting the tandem treatment. Dustin Wolf, 45% rostered. Everyone kind of feeling, and I thought so too, that he'd get some volume this year. But it's been a straight tandem with Dan Vladar. Wolf has better numbers, but Dan Vladar only 7% rostered, and has not lost in regulation yet. So interesting. That's a guy that I would take a close look at. I do think Wolf is probably the 1A and the guy of the future, but they made it clear before the season, shortly before things started, that it was going to be a battle between these two. So and so far, there's been no reason for one to pull away from the other. So it's interesting to see the rostership disparity in Yahoo, because they're both really getting the same amount of playing time. So Lukas Dostal getting the volume treatment right now with Gibson out, 37% rostered. He's been incredible. Dostal has been keeping the Ducks in it, and they've been overachieving a little, like slightly, not a ton. Like it's not like they've been amazing. I think they've played the Sharks twice, so that definitely helps. But Dostal has looked very, very solid, and I think even when Gibson comes back, he's probably going to get a little more volume. So 37% roster, that's a guy that I'd be snapping up pretty quick. In Vancouver, Lankinen and Shelovs. Lankinen has had 3 straight starts now? Is that right, Blake?
Yeah.
And has looked really good. I saw you picked him up in one of the leagues that we're in together. What are your thoughts on Kevin Lankinen here?
Yeah, I mean, I just read a report today as well that it's still going to be a little ways for Demko, right? So these are the guys we're riding with here in Vancouver, and it's a decent environment, right? They had a bad start, but yeah, they have slowly kind of come around here, and I think Lankinen is, 3 starts. That's enough for me to see. Like, I thought Shelovs was going to be the guy, but he didn't perform the way Lankinen is, and I'm picked him up everywhere I could, even in this poor week. Like I said, they only have 4 games up till the end of next week, so it's not a great schedule stream to get Lankinen, but I do think that he's going to get 2 starts for sure, probably 3 of those 4 games. And Vancouver has a better schedule moving forward in the season. They've got lots of off nights. We don't know anything about Demko, so I really don't think they're going to ride with the tandem. Like they've already shown they played this guy 3 in a row, and he's been playing amazing. So yeah, Lankinen's the guy there.
Yeah, okay, so Charlie Lindgren, 36% rostered. Again, a little bit weird in terms of the rostership disparity with him and Logan Thompson. Logan Thompson's the bigger name, I think, just because he played in Vegas and maybe got a little bit more exposure in terms of people viewing Logan Thompson. He was a big story a couple of years ago. But him and Lindgren are playing the same amount. And Washington's been surprisingly actually pretty decent so far this year. So they're getting the tandem treatment, but Lindgren is the guy that's a little bit more available. So that's a guy you could look at. Urson and Fedotov also getting the tandem treatment. Philly's been struggling a little bit, but I do think that there might be some value there. Dave Riddick, 20% rostered. We'll see when Kemper comes back, but for right now, he's getting volume. So that's a guy that I would take a close look at as well. Peter Mrazek still getting volume. Joel Hofer. They're probably, I don't know. We'll see. Binnington lost the game last night, so we'll see if they lean a little bit more towards Joel Hofer, because he did get a couple starts in a row. Looked really good. And that's a guy that that's a situation at the very least that I would be watching very carefully. Because St. Louis is interesting. They can't decide whether they're rebuilding, retooling, or going for it. So I think that if they get a hot hand, they're probably going to ride them. So, and right now Joel Hofer seems to be a little bit hotter than Binnington. So I don't know. What do you think about that situation, Blake?
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Who gets the next start, right? If they go to Hofer after one Binnington start, I think a spec ad is probably where you want to go. I added Hofer in 2 spots just to get 1 start to try and win a matchup, and he actually helped me win 1 matchup. Just Joel Hofer by himself took me over the top in a Cats league. But I held him because, I want to see what's going on here. I think that's a very real possibility. It does stink, though, in St. Louis. Robert Thomas, Matchbox 20, he went down. He's got a fractured ankle. He's going to be reevaluated in 6 weeks. So that's not going to be great for that team. They're already, they're already overachieving. They're already a team based on efficiency, and now they lost their best pivot, right? Their best player, most likely. So it's going to be tough times there in St. Louis. So, I mean, the environment might not be great for Hofer, but I think he has a real good shot at kind of taking the crease for a little bit here and having some value for a couple weeks.
A few other names here. Peter Mrazek, getting volume in Chicago, 17% rostered. Still a guy that has some value in a lot of leagues. Devin Levi, it seems like they're going with a tandem again in Buffalo. He's only 12% rostered, so that's a guy that could hold a little bit of value. Nedeljkovic, it seems like maybe they're going with him right now. So he's 9% rostered. If you are interested and you're desperate, that's a guy that you could look at. Alex Lyon, looking really good, but again, that environment in Detroit is a lot worse than people think it is. So I'm not super excited about that, but that's a guy that is going to get volume in terms of shots on net and potentially starts as well. So he seems to be he's the one that's performed the best by far out of all the Detroit goaltenders. So I like Alex Lyon at least a little bit there. And then Danil Tarasov, that's a guy that has not been touched on very much. Merzlikins is out with injury right now, so Tarasov getting the volume treatment. He's only 4% rostered, and looked pretty good last night against the Leafs. That's a guy that I think will take the starting job at some point this year, whether it's Elvis gets traded or he just stays injured or whatever. It doesn't seem like they're happy with Merzlikins at all in that situation, and vice versa. So I think Danil Tarasov is a guy to watch closely, especially if Columbus keeps playing the way that they do, or the way that they are playing right now. So, 4% rostered. He is available almost everywhere. So that's a guy to look very closely at. Let's go to Hutch versus oh man, I had a tough first week. I'm going to be honest. I mulled over taking Lukas Dostal or Tristan Jarry, and I went with Jarry, and I picked wrong. Very much so. That night he played, I think, one period of hockey and allowed 4 goals, and didn't play again, and not good. And honestly, Gugsy picked Sam Urson, who wasn't fantastic either. But he was better than Jarry. So I didn't even look at the scores. I knew I lost. So I'm 0-1. Blake, let's look at Blake's take here. Who are you taking?
So before we do this, maybe I misunderstood the contest. So what is the from when to when? And we're looking at
okay.
goalies.
So it's from tonight, so Wednesday, until next Tuesday.
Oh God. Okay. Now you're gonna make me do that. Okay. Why don't you let me look this up? You do yours first, and then
I'll give you mine then. So mine this is a tough one just because of the way that the schedule is laid out. I'm going with Ivan Fedotov, which is a little risky. But just because of the way that Philly is deploying their goaltenders right now, they have 4 games over this next week. One of the only teams that do them in San Jose, which I mean doesn't get much worse in terms of team situation. But Ivan Fedotov has not been great so far, but he is getting the Washington Capitals tonight. It's the second half of a back-to-back. They played them last night, and I'm banking on the Flyers coming out and getting some revenge against the Caps here. I think it's about time that the Caps lose a game. They're going to put Fedotov in, and then if they stick with the straight tandem here, the next game that Fedotov would get is the Montreal Canadiens on Sunday. So in terms of team situation and opponent difficulty, I'm going with Fedotov. I'm hoping that he figures it out here, and the Flyers kind of get a little bit more than they deserve. Montreal's been really bad too. They've been way overachieving. So I like Philly in that matchup. So Yeah, Fedotov's who I'm going with. It doesn't feel good, but it's in terms of looking at the schedule, that's probably as good as it's going to get. So, what do you think, Blake?
Oh,
Who are you
risky,
taking?
risky, bisky. Okay, I feel good about this. I'm taking Eustace Annunen. All right, justice for Eustace. All right, I think he's going to get 2 of the 3 games here. Colorado. We know that Annunen's going to play on Thursday against Utah. Then there's a back-to-back Sunday, Monday. So I mean, does Georgie get Ottawa and then Eustace gets Chicago? Bang. I like those 2 matchups as well, and obviously, I feel much better about Colorado than I would in Philly, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like the acumen of Fedotov as well, but he's not played very well this year. So
No.
yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, we're getting 2 games each, right? So I think it's kind of a crapshoot. But I like Annunen here because I like the Avalanche a little bit better. So there you go. Shout out to Eustace.
Yeah, I think that's probably the pick. To be honest, I probably made a terrible mistake taking Fedotov, but that's
No,
okay.
you just
It's
spot
all
me a
right.
lead. Okay, you're like the Flash, like or no, what's that guy's name in the baseball game? The Freeze or whatever. Like he gives the
Oh
people
yeah,
and then he just smashes past them.
that is such a fascinating.
Yeah,
Like, who is that guy?
I don't know.
He's just in one of those morph suits, like the green guys, the green guys that used to come and sit behind the penalty box at Canucks games.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
then they give people like an insane head start to run around the field,
Yeah.
and he beats them every
Then
time.
he just cooks them. Yeah.
I there's that one video that I've seen so many times of the guy that thinks he's gonna win, and he's
Yeah.
like literally like he's waving to the crowd. He's like
Yeah.
getting everyone hyped up, and then the guy passes him and he falls on his face. It
Yeah.
was unbelievable right before the finish line.
That's you. So you're the freeze. That's kind of what I'm getting at. You're spotting me. You're giving me a false sense of confidence, and then
Oh,
you're just gonna
interesting.
blow by. All right. That's the reference.
I used to be fast. I used to do the 200 meter
Oh my
back in
God.
high school, but not anymore. I've gained copious amounts of weight since then.
Okay.
And,
Well, you still got those long dancer's legs, so that's
Yeah, that you know what that was a big thing. People didn't expect me to be fast because I was tall and lanky, but then I could move my legs pretty fast, and the strides were usually longer than other people. So
We're gonna have to meet
that's-
up and have a race. All right. Sprinting is my
Yeah.
thing. All right. Anything longer than 10 seconds, I'm done. All right. But
Oh,
I'm an
gotcha.
explosive athlete. All right. As you can all tell if you're watching YouTube. All right. That's how we get to biz over here.
Yeah, well, I'm in horrendous shape, so that should
Oh
go
God.
really well.
No, I'm with you as well. That's
Our-
part of the fun.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. A couple of old dads racing each other. It's good. It's good.
With asthma. Yeah.
Ivan Fedotov versus Justus Annunen. We will see how this plays out next week. Let's go to the hockey hotline. We are friggin' popping off in terms
It's
of
my
the
fault,
Discord
buddy.
questions.
Sorry about that.
We're not going to be able to get to all of these questions because we've had so many. But I'm going to go to the chat first, just because we have been getting some good questions over here. Matthew Popkin says, "Gentlemen, great content as always. Question: I went to buy low on Zach Hyman and offered Timo Meyer straight up. He countered with Zach Hyman and Nason for Meyer and Norris. Should I take it? Thanks." I would say absolutely not. What do you think, buddy?
I don't know. I think that looks a little better to me. I mean, Norris is still a guy like, yeah, he's power play 1 right now, but he's a guy based on efficiency, blah, blah, blah. Meyer is not even on power play 1 right now. Neither is Hyman. All right. As we've detailed, but, I mean, if it was, I might do it if you got a different player than Nason. I'll take Nason out there and maybe get someone who's a little more established. I don't think I would do that one as is, but I think I would work with it, right? Like Meyer and Norris, I don't have a problem getting off them for Hyman and maybe a better roster player.
That's the concern for me is Nason, because I do think that you're kind of just trading for a streamer. So it ends up like Nason is just kind of like a distraction. Whereas so it's really Meyer and Norris for Zach Hyman. And I think Meyer and Hyman are probably closer than people think. In terms of their value. So I just am pretty high on Josh Norris. So I think that I would probably want a little bit more out of the Hyman side for sure. Manso says, "My boy Kiefer Sherwood.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Sherwood, buddy?"
Oh, first off, this guy Manso's a dang legend, buddy. Thanks for being here. Kiefer Sherwood, this guy is must roster in a Bangers League. There's no question. He has 31 hits in 3 games. That's obscene. He's leading the NHL, and I feel like he's being told to go do that. Like they're letting the leash off, and it's like, okay, you go nuts, buddy. You go out there, like just get the business, and he's crushing people. So yeah, I picked him up in both my Bangers Leagues. This guy is uber valuable. He's showing on Yahoo ranked as like the 40th ranked player in both spots. So clearly a valuable guy. He's putting some points on the board. Canucks third line, pretty decent. Danton Heinen, Sherwood, and Teddy Bluger, they're doing the thing. So, I mean, don't expect the offense to keep going, but definitely expect the hits. This guy's a beast.
Lost Ones asked about the Oilers power play. We did touch on that. Armin Safari, just to confirm, asks, so when Katz, Annunen, but long-term, Annunen or Samsonov, I'd still go with Annunen. Samsonov, I think, is still in a battle with Aiden Hill and Annunen. I think Georgiev, there's been a long history now of him really struggling, more than Aiden Hill. Aiden Hill's just had a tough start to the year a little bit. But yeah, I still think Annunen is the guy to go with long term. This is a question about Jamie Benn. You did touch on Jamie Benn already. That's from Ian. G Horn. Would you trade Tage and Kadri for Aho and Hyman? Cats, Pims, Bangers. Yeah, I think I would. I think I would go with Aho Hyman for Tage and Kadri. What do you think, man?
I think the Aho Hyman side is stronger. So
yeah,
and I love Tage, but Kadri, Calgary's overachieved big time at the start of the year here as well. I mean, I don't think that that's real, but they've had a great start. Yeah. Give me Aho and Hyman. Aho is flying out there right now, and he's really one of the only safe guys you can get on that team. And then I still believe in Hyman. I really do. And when you make a trade too, it's good to think about, like, it doesn't matter what the previous production was. Your production starts when you get the player, right?
Yep.
So if he has like 70 points in 60 games or whatever, that's a massive dub for you. So it doesn't matter what he's done at this point, just what he's going to do for you.
Another question about the power play in Edmonton from Matthew Popkin. Jordan asks, hey, just tuned in, but would you consider Konechny a buy low? Would you trade Jared McCann for him? That's an interesting question, Blake. What do you think about that?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would, Kent. I would definitely trade McCann for Konechny. It's not a slam dunk by any means. McCann I think he has 70-point upside, but I'm concerned about the deployment for Jared McCann. He's a great player, but they're already dicking him around a little bit in Seattle. Like, yeah, he's getting power play 1, but his even strength ice time is all over the place. I just feel like Konechny is a much safer fantasy option. He has shorthanded points. Like, he's great at that. Like, he'll get a bunch of shorthanded goals, and he's going to do better on the power play. I just like Konechny better as a player. He brings more to the table. But McCann is maybe the better offensive player, but he's just not getting the minutes. So yeah, I'd go. I think Konechny is a little bit of a buy low just because of the narrative surrounding Philadelphia and just the poor start they've had. I think Konechny's going to be fine. So yeah, I'd do that one.
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree. I'm really high on Konechny. He's still getting 20 minutes time on ice right now. In terms of underlying stats, he's got 3 points in his last 5 games. But over the last 5 games, 60th in the league in individual scoring chances for per 60 at 5v5. So I like that a lot. I think so highly of Konechny. So definitely I would do that deal. Last question from the chat here, at least until we get more. E asks, Robert Thomas out 6 weeks with a fractured ankle. I'm trying to trade Genther for Horvat. Thoughts? I would say I try to shoot a little higher than Bo Horvat if you're giving up Dylan Genther. Horvat, like I said, we talked about the Islanders power play and how they're really messing around with it now that Duclair's out. They're taking Horvat away from Matt Barzal. I don't like that at all. That's concerning to me. And Dylan Genther, I think there is enough aura around him right now that you could probably shoot a little bit higher than Bo Horvat. I don't know. What do you think about that, Blake?
Yep, pretty much. I mean, if that trade did happen, I think Horvat is probably the better side, but Genther has a much higher ceiling, which we know. So you're losing some ceiling there for a floor play. So I'm with you, man. I'd aim a little higher. See what you can do. Genther still has a bit of a name value, and he had a really low time on ice in his last game, but the game before that he played 20 minutes. So we're still trying to figure out what we have here in Dylan Genther. I think what it is like at even strength, the Dylan Genther line, they're just not very good defensively. right? So they're not getting put out there in a lot of situations, but the power play time is all his, no problem. I think he has a higher ceiling. Aim higher.
So our first question from the Discord is actually along the same lines. It's from Matt D. He says, "What caliber players would you consider trading Dylan Guenther for? I want to hold him, but everyone in my league is huge on him. I got offered a 1-for-1, also him for Stamkos. I would definitely trade Guenther for Stamkos at this point. I think Genther's ceiling is probably Stamkos's floor. I don't know what you feel about that.
Yeah,
Blake,
that makes
but
sense.
That's kind of how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're thinking like 70 points for Guenther, ceiling most likely this year. 70-point floor for Stamkos is probably where we're living. So if you got that on the table, you smash it and you run away.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Beaver88 asks, "Is Konechny worth it to hang on to points only?" Yeah, I mean, we talked about that already. Konechny, I think, is still getting tons of ice time. Has had a little bit of bad luck in terms of conversion, but I still am super high on Travis Konechny. Koo asks, "Points only, is Boqvist worth holding? Very deep at defense. Others available are Riker Evans and Eric Gustafsson. Would you take either of those guys over Boqvist at this point?"
God. First off, I'm not very interested in Boqvist. I think, he's not someone that I'm interested in holding because of the insanely low ice time. I mean, maybe Riker Evans. Gustafsson is basically Boqvist, right? Gustafsson had a 13-minute night the other day too with Detroit. So neither of those guys is exciting. Sure, power play 1, it's not all it's cracked up to be, right? They're not getting any other ice time to accrue any of those stats. So maybe Riker Evans, but that's not exciting either. Like, although he has 3 points in the last 4 games, well done, Mr. Evans. But yeah, I think you can drop Boqvist and not be too worried about it.
Rico in the chat asks, "Adam Fox for Timo Meier." This is an interesting one. I think in points only leagues, I'm probably sticking with Fox because their points output is probably going to be pretty similar. But Timo Meier, if there's any bangers waiting or shots waiting, I'd probably do that deal. I'd probably try and get Timo Meier for Adam Fox. I think Fox is a little bit overrated in those type of leagues. Doesn't really do a ton. Doesn't shoot a lot. Blocks a good decent amount, but not crazy. Doesn't hit at all. Really gets a lot of production on the power play. But yeah, Timo Meier, I think he hits a ton, shoots a ton, is going to get lots of ice time, more than he did last year at least. He kind of got demoted a little bit, but now is still playing with Nico Hischier 5v5 and is back up on. Is he on the top power play again? Maybe not.
I thought he was moved off and they had Nason there, but
yeah, maybe Nason's there. But Meier is producing 5v5. Has been doing pretty well. So I'd still probably go for that. I don't know about you, man.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, I feel like how big is your league? Like, how many teams, right? Like, to me, defense is like guys like Fox, they aren't that common, right? You got maybe a point per game defenseman there. I'd probably be more interested in holding on to Fox there. But like you said, if there's banger waiting and, if there's significant banger waiting, now we're cooking. Now we're like, yep, for sure. But I mean, to lose a guy like Fox, I don't know. I think I'd probably stick with the Fox side there.
Yeah. I think that's a fair take. Another question from the Discord. We've got Zudo asking, "What are your thoughts on Pavel Zacha so far? He's looking like a drop in my 12-team home league." Just looked at his underlying stats a little bit. They're not good. He's getting 19 minutes time on ice, which is great. Still getting power play 1 deployment. Not looking great. Shots per 60, 88th in the league. That's not bad. Individual scoring chances for per 60, 182nd. On ice numbers are terrible. 290th in Corsi 4 per 60 and 248th in scoring chances 4 per 60 at 5v5, and has just 2 points in 7 games, 0 in his last 5 games. Boston has not looked very good overall. They are, and actually we just got another question about Zacha in the chat. Is Zacha a drop, demoted to line 3 but still power play 1? Yeah, I mean, even when he was on the top line, wasn't really producing a ton, and that top line has not looked very good. So, yeah, I think Zacha probably is a drop at this. What do you think, Blake?
Yeah, Zacha is just a guy that we were interested in because of his access to Pasternak, and that already hasn't gone well. And if he's getting moved away from Pasternak, I mean, the writing's on the wall. I think you can punt this guy, and if you might be able to pick him up later, no one's going to be rushing to the wire to grab him.
Yeah, for sure. Steezy asks, we know the potential of Velarde for streaming, but it is not bringing joy to use a roster spot on what he's contributed thus far. In a deep league, 15 teams, points league, is it worth it to drop him for someone like Hedel or Pinto despite a drop in minutes relative to Velarde? That's an interesting question. Gabe Velarde has not been good so far. I just got to, oh, you know what? It's Gabriel Velarde. Let me just pull up his stats here. I don't know how to spell his name. Blake.
I got you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, okay. So 3 assists in 6 games so far, 2 assists in the last 5. Underlying stats, not great. Like in terms of his on ice stats, pretty solid. 65th in Corsi 4 per 60, scoring chances 4 per 60, 75th. Mm-hmm. His individual scoring chances 4 per 60, 149th. That's not bad. Shots per 60, not good. 345th. Still getting power play 1, still getting line 1, but really not doing a lot. When he's not converting, there's not a lot to like there. But yeah, it's still getting the exposure to Connor and Scheifele, and exposure to Ehlers on power play 1. So I don't know, man. What are your thoughts on Velarde? This has been a tough one for me. I do have him in one league that's not as deep as that. I think in a league that deep, you're probably still hanging on for a little bit longer until there's like a change in deployment. But in shallower leagues, it's a little more interesting. What do you think about Velarde here?
Yeah, in a 15-teamer, I think you have to hold Velarde. Like you can't just drop a power play 1, line 1 guy, right? But the thing is, like we have to manage expectations here, and Velarde his role on that line with Connor and Scheifele is to forecheck, right? To forecheck, to win the puck battles, and to get the puck to these guys and let them get the biz, right? Is on the power play as well. He's net front there, so I mean, he's kind of like the Zach Hyman on the Oilers power play or the old Oilers power play. He's not really that involved in the play, right? The other guys are whipping it around and he's just getting in position and tapping in rebounds and things like that, right? So I don't know. There's the ceiling isn't crazy high for Velarde just in general, but yeah, to drop him for someone like Philip Hedel or Shane Pinto at this point, I'm not really into that. You know what I mean? Like what's the benefit there? I think we ride it out a little bit longer with Velarde and see what's what. Like this is a guy that had some medical issues last year. Like he's probably it's still so early in the season, and Winnipeg's doing really well, obviously 6-0. Like they can afford Velarde to sort of find his game a little bit here. And I think he will eventually, and they're still trotting him out. So as long as they're doing that, I'm still on board with Velarde.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. Dry Saddle asks, are we dropping Tristan Jarry like last week's turkey dinner? Absolutely, yes. At this point, I don't think there's any question about that. He seems to be third on the depth chart right now in Pittsburgh, and I'm not really liking any of those goalies right now. So yeah, Jarry definitely is a drop at this point. Agent Orange asks, is Alex Lyon the too early to tell 0G candidate of the year, or is it Lukas Dostal, Kevin Lankinen? Lots of great options out there. Wondering which guys you are bullish on right now. Cheers, boys. We kind of did talk about this already. Out of those three, I'm probably like Lukas Dostal, just because he has more long-term value. Currently, Kevin Lankinen, I really like. Alex Lyon, I do like him, but I don't like Detroit right now. So I don't know. What do you think, man? How would you rank these three right now in terms of 0G heroes of the year?
Yeah, I think that's a great take there. Like Dostal is the interesting season-long piece, but again, like with him and Lyon, their team environment is horrendous, right? So for these guys to be valuable and provide value for your fantasy teams, they have to stand on their head. They have to catch bullets in their teeth, right? That's what these guys do. Whereas Lankinen, he's doing well, but he's also on a good team, right? So that's why I'm a little bit more into Lankinen in this case. And yeah, there's the looming like Demko coming back, and Shelovs is still a good goalie. He's a really good goalie, and he could take back the crease at some point here. So there's a little volatility with Kevin Lankinen, but we're talking 0G. We're talking about little pockets of value, and right now, to me, I'd be more interested in Kevin Lankinen than the other two.
Yeah, I think so too. Michael Kesselring. This is from J Sports. Michael Kesselring looks like he's getting decent time on ice since Jersey went down. Could he hit 40 points this year with decent peripherals? I mean, I don't know. don't know enough about Michael Kesselring. I think it's not been a guy on my radar. He does have 3 points in his last 5 games, 4 points in 7. Um, Individual scoring chances for per 60 amongst defensemen at 5v5 is 59th. That's not bad. And yeah, is getting over 20 minutes time on ice. I mean, I guess maybe in a really deep league, you could maybe pick him up. I'm still not really that interested in Kesselring right now, but I don't know, Blake. What do you think? He hasn't been on my radar really at all.
Well, he should be, buddy. All right. Well, what kind of fantasy hockey podcast do we have here if we're not talking about Michael Kesselring? All right. The deepest of deep cuts. Yeah, it is what it is. If you're excited about like a fourth defenseman on a team, then yeah, Michael Kesselring's good to go, right? He's having a little stretch here where he's putting some points, but that's not what he's known for. He's like with Dursey out. Yeah, this guy's stock is going to go up a little bit, but not the offensive production. Maybe more hits, maybe more blocks, but I mean, it is what it is. This guy's I don't even know if he's streamer level at this point. Like you can't, like I got to get to the wire and get Michael Kesselring because of those sweet, 20 minutes he's playing. Like it's an interesting player to talk about for now, but yeah, it's just not a guy I think we're going to be talking about ever again.
I'm gonna try and just pick a couple questions for the Discord. We have so many left, and I just don't think that we should go on for too much longer. But this is great.
Why?
We're getting tons of interest right now and tons of questions. Scafku 27, Mitch Marner thoughts. I thought everything was lining up for him to have a career year. Not so much so far. I haven't hated Mitch Marner's game so far this year. I mean, he's got 7 points in his last 5 games, 7 points in 7 games so far. So obviously 82-point pace. Not what you expect from Mitch Marner. On ice numbers are incredible. Scoring chances 4 per 60, 5th in the league right now. Corsi 4 per 60 is 33rd. I mean, that's what happens when you play with Austin Matthews.
Yep.
Underlying numbers individually are never great for Mitch Marner. But overall, I haven't hated Marner's game. Their power play just isn't isn't converting the way that you expect them to. Once they figure that out, and they will, I'm sure Marner's value is going to increase. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to expect a huge increase in points for Mitch Marner. Like I think he's a guy that's probably going to push for 100 points. But if you're expecting like 110, 120, like I heard some people say he's going to win the Art Ross this year because it's a contract year, or like I just don't see that happening. I think he's a guy that's going to hover around 100 points. He's going to get lots of exposure to Austin Matthews, and I mean that's what you should expect from Mitch Marner. So if you're expecting anything more than that, I think you were probably mistaken. But I don't know, man. Do you have any thoughts on Marner other than that?
Yeah, not too much. I'm still excited about the player. Like Matthews has underachieved, at least in terms of conversion. So once he starts converting, Marner's going to come along with him, right? Because it's like Zaka and Pasternak, only, Marner is not Zaka. Marner is like an elite offensive player. So I think it's all going to be fine. And like you said, he already has 7 points and he's shooting a little bit more too, which is nice.
Last question here. Actually, second last question. Reese's Pieces asks, what are your expectations for Mishkov this year? So we do have a little bit more data now that they've played 7 games. He does have 5 points 6 games. He has 5 points in 6 games, is getting some really nice deployment. His time on ice is just under 19 minutes, which is great in Philly. You don't get that a lot when you're a forward. So that is the most encouraging thing for me for Michkov is John Tortorella clearly is respecting the talent and is playing him a ton. So that is probably the most encouraging stat. Underlying individual numbers are not very good. His individual scoring chances 4 per 60 at 5v5, 384th in the last 5 games, 294th in shots per 60. On ice numbers better. Corsi 4 per 60, 71st. Scoring chances 4 per 60, 139th. Not amazing, but I think part of that is he plays with Owen Tippett for the most part, who shoots a ton. So that makes a huge difference. But yeah, playing on the power play, they are converting pretty well, and part of that is because of the Mishkov effect. But yeah, on ice numbers, on ice shooting percentage 8.6. That could get better. But he is shooting at a high clip right now. He's shooting just under 30% himself. So hard to know what to expect here. I think my projection is probably 60 points for Michkov. That wouldn't surprise me. I think things will probably improve. I think as the season goes on, he'll get a little bit better. But he has shown the skill that we expect from Michkov, and is getting the respect of John Tortorella, which was the biggest concern going into the year. So I don't know, Blake. What are your expectations here for Michkov?
Yeah, I think 55, 60 points is probably where he lives this year. But I am really encouraged to see the power play time. That's the surprising piece. Like, I projected him for 2 minutes, 45 seconds, because I thought they were going to, yank him around a bit. Well, he's averaging 4 minutes, 41 seconds. I mean, granted, it's only six games in, but that's what you want to see. Who knows what's going to happen, though, with Torts? You said you think it's going to get better. I'm not so sure. I mean, the only thing he has going for him in terms of this team, starting to tank a little bit and playing terribly, it could go two ways. Maybe Torts doesn't like the lack of defensive effort from Matvei Michkov, which hasn't been terrible so far, but maybe he doesn't like that. Maybe he minimizes him there, or maybe his ice time goes up to the moon and he's getting a 20-minute treatment when, Flyers are out of games and they're really riding him to see what they have here. I'm not sure which one it is, but if he starts getting even more time, obviously we get more production. But one thing I'd like to see, maybe him getting away from Owen Tippett a little bit, because Tippett is an insane shooter. He's the ultimate chucker, right? But Michkov is a shooter too. And I think when you're on a line with Tippett, he's the one at the end of passes, not Michkov.
Yeah.
So I want to see Michkov at the end of passes. I want to see him chucking pucks, right? And he just hasn't been able to do that so far this season. So if that changes, then I would have to change my projection for him a little bit as well.
Yeah, you want exposure to good players, though. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
And there really aren't many on that team. I think maybe Morgan Frost, but even that is, I know he was my pick of the week, but
don't talk Yang on the tinkly winkly, man. All right, come on.
And I mean, Travis Konecny's really the only other person that I would love to see him play with. But it's not an amazing group, a forward group. There's a lot of potential there in Philly, but it's
what a
just
diplomatic person you are. Oh my
not
God,
a lot of conversion happening. The last question that we have here from the Discord, this is from Nate. He says, I thought this was an interesting one. Would you rather sleep on the street in downtown Belleville for a week or listen to Jack Edwards call every Bruins Leafs game for the rest of your life?
Oh, God.
Now, this is a fascinating question. Jack Edwards, I am pretty stoked that he's retired at this point, because that guy, I know Bruins fans love him. But he's tough to listen to. Maybe the most biased play-by-play announcer that I've ever heard in my entire life. Just the biggest Bruins homer. But they are so much more tolerable now. That broadcast is so much more tolerable now that Jack Edwards is gone. But there is something about it. I don't hate him the way that a lot of Leafs fans do. And I don't know if you know anything about downtown Belleville, but you do not want to be there after dark. It's
because I was leaning that way. Okay.
No, you don't want to be there. I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible because I maybe know a little bit. No, working in healthcare and at the hospital in Belleville, I do see a lot more characters than maybe the average person does. So I'll try and be as diplomatic as possible on the mic here, but you don't want to be there after dark. And I'm not sure that I literally would survive a week sleeping in downtown Belleville. I'd certainly, my life would be changed forever, one way or another, or I would just be dead. So it's not a great spot. I think there's so much, a lot of drugs happening, so much meth. And with meth comes just, random acts of violence. And it happens a lot. There's a lot of underreported violence. Belleville has been on the national news a lot in terms of records being broken with overdoses happening downtown. I don't know if you've seen that, Blake, but in the summertime, there was a moment where within half an hour, I believe there were 20 overdoses, people dropping like flies. They had to close down downtown. and it's not a good situation there right now. So yeah, I would.
So
That being said,
so what are you saying? You still would be out on the street, or you no?
I'm good with Jack
You're
Edwards,
good with Jack Edwards,
calling Bruins and Leafs games. That's what I'm saying. At this point, it's a nostalgic thing, even if it's negative nostalgia. And I like my life. You know, I would like to survive longer than a week. So that would be my answer at this point.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I got a little bit of Jack Edwards stuff here too. I mean, obviously Canucks and Bruins. This guy's terrible. But you know what? I was leaning, just hanging out in the street in the nice weather. But based on that report, I guess I have to listen to Jack Edwards. But also, I got to cancel my plane trip out to Belleville here. I was going to come visit you, and now, I mean, you've given me a terrible Yelp review on the city, and I'm going to have to double think that. But
I will say, Blake,
some real beauties, though, buddy. I'll tell you that right now.
I will say, Blake, if you were to come to Belleville, you'd have a place to stay. And we live probably in one of the nicer neighborhoods in town. So it's pretty secluded from the sketchiness.
Oh, I want the whole experience, buddy. All right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, we could do that too.
I spent some time on the downtown east side here in Vancouver as well, just when I was living in Vancouver. So I'm hip, buddy. I know what's going on. So yeah, lots of different people, different ways of life. But, like I said, Belleville's produced a lot of beauties, yourself included, my man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we got Nick Cousins.
Yeah, got Nick Cousins, a well-loved hockey personality.
Drew Bannister, Mark Crawford.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mark Crawford. You've probably got some nostalgia for Mark Crawford.
I do. He's not very good nostalgia, but yeah, I mean, yeah, he's got a beautiful head of hair. All right, we knew that.
He sure does. He
really does.
He's a silver fox, that's for sure.
Okay.
All right. That's all we got for today. Please leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thank you to those who already have. It's helped us a ton with our audience growth. And Blake has mentioned on the other podcast, if you leave us a review with a comment, we're probably going to read it on the show. So please do that. That helps us even more. And we just really like to read your comments, positive or negative. Validated. Although we do prefer positive comments. I will be honest, just for overall mental health. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Things have been popping over there. We've got lots of fun video content there. And if you like looking at our faces and looking at our fits, the things that we're wearing, our fun little backgrounds. Blake's got some fun things on his little ledge behind him there. I've got my blue wall and my Funko Pops and shit. So that's fun. If you're interested in that, head on over to the
Most
YouTube
people
channel.
are, yeah.
That's true. Also, if you like our content, check out the Apples and Ginos Patreon to support us on a monthly basis. Hop into the Apples and Ginos Discord server. We're having tons of discussions about fantasy hockey in there. We're almost at 1,500 members in the Discord, which is pretty fun. So, if you're the 1,500th member, are we getting Apples and Ginos oven mitt there, Blake?
You bet, buddy. Oh my! I might get some special knitted socks. I don't know, sublimated Apples and Ginos socks. I don't know. I got to think about this. But yes, our 1,500th member is getting something.
I love that Vistaprint. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
They do a lot of things over there. Shout out to the band. They're there for providing our music. There's Spotify links in the episode description. Follow us on X. Nate is at Apples Ginos. Blake is at Blake Creamer AG. I'm at JustJoshin41. Check out Gugsy in the chat or in the Discord as well. He doesn't have Twitter, but he is at Gugs in the Discord. Please practice safe stats and happy streaming. Have a good one, folks.
Excellent. Soon the championship will be ours. All ours.